Yeah, welcome everybody. We will talk about the physical abuse, the mental abuse, and its prevention in the workplace. How do we go around it? What are the agonies that a person has to undergo in the workplace? So, the agenda is to enable staff to take the first step towards providing better supports, better services, users through routinely inquiring about the experiences thereby, violence in the mental health assessment. Again, understand the perspective, understand the work environment, and probably take proactive measures to ensure that there are no sort of abuses or violences in the workplace as far as mental health assessments are concerned. So understanding differential impacts of violence and abuse, now this is something which is very relevant. You see on the left hand side it is all negative, on the right hand side it is all the positive. So you need to understand what happened, what was negativities and what were the positives outcome, who did it, how many times, how long for did they tell, where they believed, where they blamed, where they protected. Now these are the questions that needs to be understood in a perspective. If something goes wrong, if some behavior, some anomaly is being notified or detected in the workplace, you need to ask what happened, who did it, how, how many times, for how long, did they tell or did you find out? Where they believed, where they believed or where they trusted, where they blamed, where they protected, what actually went along with it? The physical consequences when a significant others are violent or probably abusive. Now, they will appear as complicit in and indifferent to what is happening. So, the party who is being violent or who has the upper hand on being abusing everyone, probably someone, if not everyone, they will appear as complicit and probably indifferent to whatever is happening in terms of a complaint or in terms of the issues of the case might be. The victim may feel fearful, silent, shamed, and stigmatized. Their abusers may foster the belief that they are responsible for the abuses and their isolation. The victim may cope up with the trauma by disconnecting from themselves. Their efforts to survive may subsequently be diagnosed and labeled as pathologies thereby. Now, these are the things that needs to be understood time and again. So, yes, we are looking at the psychological consequences. What are the long-term effects of a trauma, the consequences? There is anxiety, there is fear, there is anger, there is aggression. We are being unhappy about it, we are being depressed, the lack of confidence, the self esteem, feeling dirty, damaged, guilty, physical health problems, sleep disturbances, intrusive memories, inability to trust others, problem with sex, probably with relationships. What exactly is happening around here? These are the things that needs to be addressed time and again. So yes, we are talking about the long term consequences of trauma, and there might be different kind of manifestation from on different kind of people. Some of us can get anger at the short term trigger. There might be apprehensions on somebody's face, somebody might go into depression, somebody might have some physical manifestation and the health problem thereby. So there are ways to cope. People cope up in different fashion, and similarly the manifestation takes in a different shape and sizes. So problem with sex, problem with memories, sleep disturbance, and so on and so forth. So do we go around it? Look, this is my response tree, and this is what happens. Now there are many manifestation as a tree might be replicating up to you, but what are the causes? If the causes are there in the roots, see, the roots are few, the leaves are plentiful, the stems are many. So, what are we looking into it? So, the causes might be three: physical abuse, sexual abuse, or probably even emotional abuses. Now, what are my manifestation? If you look into it, we are talking about guilt, we are talking about pain, we are talking about fear, anger, shame, probably low self esteem, probably the fact that we are unable to trust anyone. We have compulsive behavior, anxiety, eating disorder, violence, phobias, self harm, sexual problem, nightmares, depression, and PTSD, post traumatic stress disorder, as they say. So this is an example of the response tree. See the manifestation, plentiful of manifestation, but probably the root causes are only three: physical abuse, sexual abuse, and emotional abuse thereby. So ways to trying of coping with the impacts of the trauma and how do we go across with it? This is something which we need to understand. The first is dissociations. Definitely, yes. We would like to distance ourselves from togethers. We would love to avoid relationship or meeting the people who makes us uncomfortable. Or probably we would like to get ourselves intrigued into a work, interested into the work or some sort of relationship, which might take us away from the reality of being into trauma or in a stressful situation. So keeping ourselves busy, keeping ourselves distracted, and obviously some people take the help of drugs and probably get themselves abused by substances in terms of alcohol. So there is still other who might physically harm them, physically self-harm or self-injury happen. That is somewhere down the corner, somatizations would take place. So we need to be watchful of what exactly is happening around it. So yes, the common service diagnosis. Now, what can be the diagnosis as far as it goes around? So we might have an OCD, obsessive compulsive disorder, as they say. So obsessive compulsive disorders, depression. We might have an eating disorder. We might have a bipolar disorder, phobias, psychosis, schizophrenia, borderline personality disorders, PTSD as post-traumatic disorder, as has been stated earlier. So, post traumatic disorder, what is it all about? It is all about trauma. It is all about bad experiences. It is all about bad memories. Traumatic events occur, and believe me or not, it occurs in everyone's life. Re experience of traumatic events as intrusive thoughts, nightmare, flashback happens with it. Avoidance of anything associated with trauma and emotional numbing, unable to function, significant social, occupational, and interpersonal impairment, as they say. 1 month or more of duration of symptoms. As we look into it, high arousals, startle reaction, poor concentration, irritability, insomnia, or probably even hypervigilance, as the case might be. People are absolutely alert all the time. Now, there might be a borderline personality disorder. What are they looking into it? There might be, according to DSM, which was published in 2013, five or more of the following. One is a frantic effort to avoid real or imagined abandonment. Absolutely having into that imaginary situation that goes around it and probably reacting to that imaginary situation as on when on order. Unstable and intense interpersonal relationship. What is intense interpersonal? Like clinging on to a person with whom they are comfortable with, or probably dissociating with rest of the people who they are not absolutely trust and probably don't have much of an interaction. Then comes the unstable self-image or sense of self. It is all about being negative, all about having a complexion about oneself, be it inferiority complexion. Mostly it is inferiority complexions. Similarly, for self-damaging impulsive behavior, which might be damaging, let's say one becomes an alcoholic, one becomes substance abuse, one might be looking into injuring themselves, taking pleasures out of giving pain to oneself, suicidal and self-mutilating behaviors, as they say. So affecting instability, will there is an instability in terms of behavior. The behavior is not congruent all the time, everywhere. Chronic feeling of emptiness, inappropriate intense anger or difficulty controlling anger, stress related paranoid thoughts, or severe dissociative symptoms, as the case might be. When service ignores violence and probably the abuse thereby, we're talking about clients, they don't get the help they need, often, more often than not, can be re-victimized by services. Probably, again, one of those trigger point might come up time and again. Can have unnecessarily long contact with services, obviously into stressful situation that we are talking around it. Staff don't get satisfaction of really helping people and seeing their lives changes as on when on basis. So why routine inquiry is important? Asking is essentially a starting point. First foremost thing is to acknowledge the fact that you are facing a problem and you are ready to solicit help. It creates the possibility of people getting help they need. It gives people permission to speak about their experiences. It tells people that these types of experiences are relevant to their stress. It provides services with evidence that can inform their development as the case might be. Now, why is it important? Survivors wants to be asked. This is what we need to go around it. By asking the question at an assessment, you are saying it is okay to talk about violence. It is okay to talk about abusers. There's nothing wrong with it. At the end of the day, it is the violators, it is the abuser who are at fault. If the question is not being asked at an assessment, it tends not to be asked at all. Forget being later. It reduces the likelihood that these experiences will be challenged unless and until it should go to the court. So, as a victim, as a survivor, what do you want? Ask as early as possible. There should be help accessible. Ask because you really want to know. Keep asking the question. Do not be selective about what you ask, whom you ask. Respond helpfully. Follow up with good services then and there, every now and then. Record keeping as evidences. Keep records. Even if questions haven't led to disclosure, they might in the future. Carefully record keeping can help people get justice, welfare benefits, housing. Careful record keeping can support the efficient flow of information. In fact, it can prevent future unwarranted incidents, ensure that the record can be accessed by those directly involved in the person case. So, record keeping is service deployment or development. Asking the question make it possible for data to be triggered then and there that the manager has to ask around. Estimate the size of NHS or National Health Services violence, sexual abuse workload. Now, in every federal government might have their own system of Department of Health. Some countries might be having it. Some countries might be looking at the human welfare, the staff welfare under the labor Department of Labor, depending upon it, the sizes of violences and sexual abuses, what needs to be done, evaluate the effectiveness of current responses, identify gaps in the service industries and service delivery, suggest ways to improve service commissioning, then and thereby now let us proceed. What is the difference between uh, verbal abuse, sexual abuse, mental abuse, and how it has been reacted when we are talking about children's and when we are talking about adults? So why do you think that children don't tell or don't report such incidents? Let me address that before I will go move on to the adult. Why don't adults actually report certain things, such things? Children's because nobody asks and they don't believe that nobody is safe to tell. That confidence is missing. Do not recognize it as an abuse. Children often do not recognize, they don't find it out as an abuse. Attached to the abuser, probably emotionally attached. If not emotionally, at least financially dependent. Threatened by the abusers, probably yes, one of the major reasons for them keeping shut. Belief that they are to be blamed is the reverse psychology that comes around it. Believe that victims, they are the victims because they have kept themselves in that particular position. Afraid of family breakup, being sent away or put into care, lack of words to describe what happened actually, and this is what goes around it. Why adults don't tell? Because of the same reason as children, probably yes. Fear of not being believed or getting negative responses. Fear that they should have told when it was happening, having repressed memories, fear the offender's reactions then and there, worried about the impact of disclosures on their family, community, as the case might be. Difficulties in talking about emotional matters, fear of humiliations in courts or newspaper, ashamed that they weren't man enough to prevent it, believing that they were the only one and there are no many reasons. Now, these are the reasons why men don't tell. Believe they're the only one and probably it doesn't happen with anybody else. But this is sadly mistaken. They are not probably manly enough, and that is the reason why unwarranted incident has happened to them. They feel humiliated as on when on talking. They are afraid that people will think bad of them, and that is that image conscious that comes around it. So if being gay, being asked, has been asking for it as the case might be. So what? The question I will like to put across to the audiences is what if I am becoming the abuser? If I am the party who is abusing and probably violating a person's dignity every now and then. Remember, the victims are plentiful and abuse are only handful. Again, as the graph has been shown, victims plentiful of them and abusers are only a handful. Now, let us move from children to men and let us talk about the adults. Now, why adults do tell? They now feel safe to do so. Being in a new relationship, probably living away from the home, probably different environment, different context, and that is the reason what encourages them to open their mouth. Life event triggers, probably memories, probably there are many plentiful of life events that are mandatory there, which we go through the motion. Concerns the abuser poses a risk to others. They ask to the question at assessment as on when on basis. So let us begin with responding to a disclosure. What happens if there is a disclosure? How do we proceed with it? How do we handle it? Let's say there would in the part one, let us hear it out. Reassure the client that it's a good thing to tell, good thing to lessen your burden from your heart. Have you told anyone before? How did that go? Is it an issue that needs to be helped with? Does do you require any sort of cooperation? Is this the right time to deal with? Do not try to gather all the details. At the end of the assessment, ask them how they are feeling. Check they can access any immediate support they need as on when on basis. After disclosure of past abuse, people need to feel safe. People need to be supported. Not all survivor wants or need ongoing help or therapy. And emphatic responses might be just enough, fair enough. Let us understand the part two of not only hearing the problems, now let us look at the disclosure. Do not presume that they are no longer having a relationship with the abuser. Probably this is something which almost every one of us forget. They might still have, they might be emotionally attached, they might be financially attached, they might be in a habit or in an environment where they cannot escape the abuser. The abuser was a man, they were abused by just one person. Now, this kind of disclosure, probably they might be abused by not by one particular person, not by a particular man. There might be n numbers of person, and not only by a single gender. You know what they feel or they think about. Children are being protected out here. So let us provide support to the service survivors. Now we are looking at survivors. First thing and first foremost thing is to solicit help, cooperation from friends, from family. In fact, self help is the best help. From guided self help, let us move to the next thing about non specialist staff. Let them or make an effort to integrate them back into the society. And this can only be done if you are getting support from non-specialist staff altogether. Once this has been done, probably now you let them grow on their own with their own survivor support groups, with their own counseling, with their everything that they are able to relate and probably find a ground footing onto it. Once this has been established, we are on the pathway for a long-term therapy, longer-term therapy of reintegrating them into the natural habitat of the society per se. So from self-help, from help from friends, from help from family, we need to go to some sort of guidance self-help, and probably from helplines, support from non-specialists. Once this has been taken, we come to the third step where they can form their own groups as a survivor groups and take help and relate to incidences towards them. Probably this is a step where they can build up their confidences, and this translate into a long-term therapy thereby. Providing support, the GP did not provide my counseling. What is GP? General physician. Did not provide any counseling. It is provided by local charity. They advised me that I need people around me. Where I live, I don't have friends there. It affects you. You have no support. You have no one to talk to. You are just all by yourself. That's why this women group at the Refugee Council is so important to me. They keep me the same, they knowing that I will see other women here when I come. Otherwise, I wouldn't see anyone for weeks altogether. Current risk, any immediate implications for their care? Are they still at risk? Are in contacts? Are they safeguarding implications for the children by any chances? So these are things that you need to go on asking, keep on finding till you find a concrete answer. The questions are there immediate implications for their care? Are they still at risk? Are they still in contact? Are they safeguarding the implications of the children? Assessing safety. The useful question is it safe to go home? What has he or she threatened to do? What are you afraid might become? Have you heard the children? What helps you to keep safe? Let's say the people and the places thereby. Safety planning, review crisis management. How do you know it might happen? What do they do to reduce the impact? How do they manage afterwards? Help plan ahead in small, practical, and achievable steps. Help identify what needs to be done to stay safe. Validate their efforts as on when on basis, no matter how small the effort is all about it, no matter how small the validation is all about it. Please go around with it and encourage them to be proactive. What, when they can do. So, identify what you require, plan ahead, validate their efforts, and encourage them more often than not. Form a list of safe contacts, people who are comfortable with. Who do you feel safe talking to? Is it family? Is it friend? Is it professional? Is it helpline? Some people might not be comfortable with family. Some might not be comfortable with friends. Some might be very comfortable with professional or helpline. So you need to do around it, or it might be the other way around completely. Make a list of names and phone numbers to use in a crisis, including when they are available. Keep the list at hand. Absolutely. Ask friends about their contact limits. How much support are they able to give? How late at night they are able to find out? What other supports are available? Let's say SARCs. SARCs are nothing but sexual abuse referral centers. Again, SARCS, sexual abuse referral centers, rape crisis center. ISVAs are independent sexual domestic violences. IDVAs, independent domestic violences advisors. Refugees are women aids. Legal advisors, rights for women. Service for men, the Survivor Trust, the local rape support centers, and the national helpline thereby. Let us move to the support for staff. The staff who are well supported will always support their client. This includes team support. This includes supervisor, formal supervisions, access to specific expertise in abuses, and continual professional development as on when on basis. So support for staff would be including about team support, formal supervision, access to specific expertise in abuse, continual professional development. We come to the very last slide for the day. The prevalence of violence and abuse means that there are staff who have passed or probably are currently experiencing domestic violence or probably childhood abuses, and the staff who are the abusers. So there are a group of people who are abused and there are a group of people who are abusers. So until and unless this violence, this abuses are becoming non-existing thing, this matter will always persist. Staff should feel able to disclose their abuse, ask for confidential support. Health services must demonstrate zero tolerance of perpetrators at the workplace. Now, with this, I come to an end of this presentation. Thank you for watching this video till the very end.